Hello, social media friends, business partners, and many of you I don't know yet as well. Welcome to today's episode of Solutions Experts. And in this episode today, I have invited one of my connections, a friend, attorney David Lebowitz. So if you will allow me just a few seconds and ask him to come from the green room into the studio, we will get things started. Well, hello, David.
Hi, Bill. How are you today?
I'm doing very well. Great seeing you today.
The same.
Yeah. So the last time I saw you, or the last time I spoke with you, you were about to enjoy a vacation. And so it had to wait until you came back for us to do this video podcast, correct?
Well, it was going to be a vacation. It turned out to be a staycation because we ended up getting stranded in Montreal and never
Oh,
got
no.
to Europe, which was our destination. So we were one of the many victims of the flight problems that we have and have had. And I have to tell you, it was a thrill. Not exactly, but it was a test of resourcefulness. Let's put it that way.
The many challenges of COVID that impact certainly our personal lives and sometimes our business lives, right?
Not to mention climate change, because this was caused by a massive thunderstorm in Montreal, which closed that airport for 6 or 7 hours. And our flight was late. We missed our flight to Europe, and there was no other flights to Europe. We ended up going home. But so we had a
Oh,
lovely staycation in Chicago, which I think is the point. When we have failures, we try to take those failures and turn them into successes. And that's been kind of the story of my life, Bill.
sure, sure. I get that. I get that. It sometimes happens to all of us. So, if I may use the segue of you needed to get away, get some R&R from the business that you run as an expert. I've already introduced you in the opening of this episode, and that is you're a connection of mine, you're a friend of mine. I didn't share with anyone yet exactly what you do. So, why don't you lead us off with what is it that you do?
Well, I help people and businesses that are in financial difficulty, and I help them achieve success after they have unfortunately found failure. So many people that you see on TV, they deal with people that are perpetually poor. And I deal with people that are formerly rich and want to get to be rich again. And I found that a lot of people don't really appreciate the fact that bankruptcy is a vehicle of basically solving problems and dealing with temporary failures and setbacks, but going forward and achieving great success in the future. And that's really what I do for most of my clients.
That's what I remember. And how you just described it. Right on, David. Thank you for sharing that with our audience for today. Now, my next question is this, David. What are some differences in what you do when you help a business, overcome this hurdle, having to file bankruptcy versus a consumer personal bankruptcy? What are some differences?
Well, one of the most important things is that a business can solve its problems very frequently without having to file bankruptcy. For example, one thing that a business can do is it could have a workout with its secured creditors, and we do that a fair amount of times. Sometimes a business can do what's called an assignment for the benefit of creditors, whereby we can avoid a bankruptcy altogether. Sometimes a business closes down without the need for a bankruptcy, and sometimes the business can be bought out by a successor, and that could solve a lot of problems as well. So there are many, many ways that a business could be rehabilitated without bankruptcy. But if we do file a bankruptcy, we now have a wonderful, wonderful opportunity called Subchapter 5 of Chapter 11. And this is a brand new thing that Congress did just before the COVID crisis came up, which allows a small business to basically reorganize itself on very favorable terms. It's easy. No creditors committee, no trustee. The trustee's job is actually to help the business reorganize. Very, very comfortable sort of arrangement. And the creditors don't have too much of a say. In a larger business bankruptcy, the creditors do have a say. And of course, you have to negotiate with them. And sometimes the shareholders lose out. Sometimes the creditors lose out. And sometimes the secured creditors end up winning. So it depends upon where the creditors are in the pecking order in a business bankruptcy. In a personal bankruptcy, most of the time, the creditors basically just don't get anything because the debtors have nothing to give. So we call that just straight Chapter 7. It's a liquidation. Usually the debtor loses nothing because most of the time the debtor's assets are exempt. Sometimes the debtors have some assets or they have income and they have to file a Chapter 13 case. And in that kind of a case, the debtors can pay over a period of 3 to 5 years. And again, they get to keep most of their assets. So there's a lot less negotiation in a personal bankruptcy than there would be in a business bankruptcy. So you have to be a good negotiator in the business side, I would say.
And I can see you doing that when you are engaged in those business bankruptcies to help them flip the page and get to the next chapter. Now, my next question is, because you do this for a living, you're in it all the time. What are some misconceptions about bankruptcy, David?
Well, a lot of people associate bankruptcy with failure, and I think that is a mistake. In the French language, the word for bankruptcy is faillite, which means failure.
Okay.
But that's silly because bankruptcy is really not a failure. It's the beginning of a future success. Bankruptcy is the vehicle by way we can apply a tourniquet to the bleeding, stop the bleeding, and start the healing. And this is what bankruptcy is for. In our Constitution in America, bankruptcy and immigration are in the same clause of the Constitution. It's because our nation was a nation of poor people that were immigrants.
You're right.
And so Congress wanted to attend to that particular need. And so the Congress knew that people were going to be poor, that they might be immigrants, and they were going to need to have help in order to be able to succeed going on the long term. So bankruptcy is a way of stopping a failure and moving forward to the long-term success. That's the first thing. The second thing is that people think that bankruptcy is shameful, and it is not shameful. It's in our statutes. It's something that people have the right to do, and the reason for it is so that people don't end up basically being in the poorhouse. They don't end up being serfs or slaves. And it's very biblical. I mean, that was the same thing in the Bible, really, that said that people should have a sabbatical year and have a time off from being poor. And in the Jubilee year, they should be able to have complete absolution from all of their debts. So this is part of our civilization when you get right down to it. And then finally, bankruptcy is the means whereby businesses can operate most efficiently. I mean, bankruptcy allows people and business to allocate their resources to the way that works the best. And it stops them from allocating their resources and behaving in a way that's not working well. So bankruptcy is not only a safety net, but it's also a guardrail. It keeps people from going off the deep end and saying, look, stay in your lane and everything's going to be okay.
That's a great way to describe it. And sometimes we all need guardrails so that we don't tiptoe and fall over the cliff.
Exactly.
I know we talked about this outside of our video podcast in many conversations, and it was very interesting to me, very enlightening to me that you shared with me how technology is a part of your business as it is also a part of my business. Can you maybe give us like 2 examples of how technology makes what you do either faster, better? Can you speak to that?
Sure. Well, the first thing, of course, is that COVID taught us that we don't have to be didn't have to spend their time. Are we back? Good.
I think you're back, David. Yes.
Okay, excellent. So I have to say that we used to really rely upon having an office downtown next to the courthouse, and people used to drag themselves a long way to see us. And now if they want to see us, they can see us by Zoom. For example, I'm meeting with a client on Thursday where the client's going to actually be physically in my office, yet their daughter-in-law, who's going to interpret for them, is going to be in Houston, Texas. Well, we're all going to be together because technology allows us to do that. And it's a difficult case, but we get a chance to come together because of this Zoom technology. And further, we go to court now by Zoom. I haven't been to a courthouse for a court hearing in 2.5 years now, and yet because of Zoom. So it's a
Right.
very, very important thing. That's the first point. The
Okay.
second point is that we are dealing with data, a lot of it. We're using online data in order to get credit reports. We're using online data to be able to check to see whether people own property or not, whether they have cars or not, whether they are telling us the truth or not. And so transparency, because of online data and publicly available data, is really helped. And as a result of it, a lot of failures that we might have had because people were not being completely candid, or maybe they didn't even know what their circumstances were, is now immediately available. We can get text transcripts instantly, and we can find out what people's situations are with income tax. Well, we don't have to guess. We can see what people's situations are with the Uniform Commercial Code with filings. We don't have to guess. And
Wow.
eliminating guesswork allows us to be precise and accurate and successful, and not have these kinds of failures that we might have had 25, 30 years ago.
True. And then speed, of course, is very important for your business and, of course, mine.
Well, the creditors are not waiting to collect their money, so we've got to act fast in order to stop them from doing that when we represent debtors, and vice versa. The creditors move fast because they've got to act in order to be able to recover on their assets. So speed is important in everything that we do.
Yeah, that's wonderful to hear. If I may, at this point in our conversation, I want to change gears a little bit, and I want to ask some questions to learn more about you and for you to share with our audience a little bit more about you on a personal front. So here goes the next question. What would you tell your 30-year-old self, David, what you now know today?
Well, the first thing is that you have to treat everyone that you meet like they're the most important person you've ever dealt with. That's really critical. So many people take other people for granted, I think, and you never know who that most important person is. So if you treat everyone beautifully, you really can't go wrong. And that means the smallest person, the biggest person, everyone should be treated as important, because everyone maybe can teach you something. Everyone can open a door for you. Everyone can help you in ways that you might not have done known that you could go ahead otherwise. And if you start having that attitude that everyone is important and special, then surprise, they may start treating you as if you're someone that's special, and that could be really a great thing. That's the first thing. The
Okay.
second thing is that you're going to have people that are going to tell you what to do. You're going to have bosses, and the most important thing that you tell a boss is yes. I can do. I will do this. I will do whatever you ask me to do, as long as it's legal and as
Right.
long as it's got a proper object. But if it's hard, don't say I don't know how. Figure out how to do it. If it's don't get help, you know. But learn everything that you can. Why? Because someday you're going to want to open your own business sooner than later. And I will tell you that opening your own business is probably the single most important thing that you could do, because when you're in business for someone else, they're in business for them. They will peripherally help you to the extent that it benefits them. But
Right.
if you have your own business, you can work for your benefit. And if you would like to, help other people along the way because they're helping you, great. You'll probably want to do that. But you're going to be benevolent, then your boss may not be so benevolent. So, open your own business with the idea that you're going to improve the world, make it a better place for the people that work for you, and so that you can live and be happy and provide for yourself and your family. Because there's no better way to do that in your own business for many, many reasons.
True. True. And you certainly have accomplished that. So that word of advice, how you've answered that question, is right on. Now, I know you love to travel. So my next question is, when you are not exercising your experience, your mojo as a bankruptcy attorney, besides traveling, what other ways do you spend your time? R&R? Do you play tennis? Share with us what you like to do.
Well, the first thing is I'm a biker, and I'm not a motorbiker, a bicyclist. I like to bicycle, and the reason I like to bicycle is because, first of all, it's exercise, and second of all, it lets you see the world at a pace that you can absorb it and see it, and in a way that you might not have seen it otherwise. I will tell you that when I bike the drive, Lakeshore Drive, in
Wow.
September, I see the city in a way that I don't see it when I'm driving in my car,
I
and
bet.
that's important. The next thing, though, it follows, is that I really love photography. I love to stop and look at things and to observe them and see them, and then record them in photography. Why? Because it's a representation. You see something, and then you represent it in a way that someone else may not have seen, so that they can maybe have a vision or an understanding that they might not have had otherwise. And that's exactly what I do in my professional life. I take chaos, I take facts and circumstances that are completely chaotic. I put them together in a way that makes sense to the person that I have to present them to, so that I can then represent the client or represent the client in an efficient and effective way to the end that the client might get what's necessary for them. So representation of a client and representation of the world through photography are very similar, because you get to see that which is out there and you present it in a way which is otherwise unseen. And I find that that's really pleasing. So those are things that I like. And of course, bicycling fits into that. And I like baseball. And I like baseball because baseball is just a way of relaxing, and it gives us commonality with many people. So, I mean, I like baseball, but lots of people that are not like me also like baseball. So it allows me to have commonality with people that are not necessarily like me, and that's an important thing too.
That's wonderful. And so, audience members, social media friends, business partners, and of course, for David and myself, many of you others who we don't know as well yet, if you may be biking along Lakeshore Drive in Chicago, you just might run into attorney David Lebowitz. One last question, David. What is your go-to song or music that gets you into your zone, whether it be on the bike or when you're deep in thought with bankruptcy stuff?
Well, I like jazz generally, but jazz is what puts me in sort of a Zen state. So I'm not going to. But if you talk about songs, I'll tell you three songs that are important to me. The first one is "Tomorrow" from Annie, because the sun will come up tomorrow, and bet your bottom dollar that tomorrow will come, and tomorrow is just a short time away. So that's basically speaks to my optimistic view of life, because. Whatever's going on today, tomorrow's going to come. I will tell you that whenever I deal with a catastrophe or a problem, tomorrow's going to come. And I will tell you that no matter what has happened in the past, I've always been able to prevail. And so can you, and so can all of you. I mean, you just have to kind of dig in and take care of stuff. You will. The next thing that I like is are two songs that kind of fit together. The first one is "Celebrate," and the other one is "We Are Family."
Oh, yeah.
Because there's nothing more important to me than celebrating in a family occasion. So if you've heard this the song "We Are Family" and "Celebrate."
Yeah.
Those two songs fit together hand in glove, and I love them. And those are occasions that make me happy, like my daughter's wedding, for example, recently.
Wow.
So any happy occasion, those songs just they just send chills to my spine. Those are my favorites, I will tell you.
Thank you for sharing a little bit more of a glimpse of what matters to you and what you enjoy, David, on a personal front. And at this moment, sit tight for just a second or two. I'm going to move our conversation and video podcast to share some words from our sponsor for today. So just 1 second, and we will bring you right back into the conversation and wrap up.
Thanks.
All right. Audience members, social media friends, business partners, and again, many of you who we don't know as well yet. Our sponsor for today is Planet Home Lending. When you may know someone who has worked through the hurdle, the life event of filing a bankruptcy, and they're ready to finance their next home purchase, please consider us at Planet Home Lending. We will be there to get you home. So, David, as I bring you back into our wrapping up this podcast here, I wanted to say thank you for the time that I've come to know you. There was always a part of me where I'm like, this guy knows a lot more about what I do than what I know about what you do. And that's why, selfishly for me, I've been knocking on your door to say, David, let's have this conversation. And by the way, let's record it so that we have this content that will live on forever, that you can save and I can save. What do you think about that?
I think it's awesome. People say that bankruptcy is on your record forever, but it's not. It goes away after a period of time, 10 years. But good conversation, good ideas last a long time, and good friendships last a long time. So I appreciate your friendship, Bill. And I appreciate the fact that we have had opportunity to work together, and we will have more opportunities to work together. So thank you
Likewise.
for the opportunity to visit with you today, and I wish you continued success in your career as a mortgage lender.
Thank you very much. So at this moment, we both will wave a goodbye to all of you audience members, and I will see you all in the next episode. Have a good day.
Goodbye.